Hello again. In the last video, we finished setting up the spawn volumes and added one to the level so that we could see batteries dropping into the world. In this video, we're going to start setting up the collection functionality so that players can pick up what those spawn volumes are putting down. Let's go ahead and get started. So what we're going to need to do is switch over to our code, and the first thing we're going to do is well, just let me lay it out to say that the character is going to actually say, hey, I picked up this pickup, and he's going to tell the pawn, and then the pawn will handle that being picked up. So what we're going to do is create that function for on the pickup side for when it was collected, and we'll call that, just like Epic does, was collected. And that's a void function. It's not going to return anything, and it is going to be a U function that is a blueprint native event. And we'll put it in the category of pickup. Now, what is a blueprint native event? Again, Epic's tutorial covers this, but I will just say that the blueprint native event allows us to put some functionality in Blueprint and some in C++. So we'll do that. Ultimately, it's not going to work for us because blueprint native events can't be replicated, but that's an issue we'll deal with down the road. So this is the function to call when the pickup is collected. Okay, and we also need to add the implementation of this, which is what's going to be called by code. So this is going to be virtual because child classes could override it. So it's also a void. And the way you implement these is to make it the same, was collected, and append an underscore implementation. And that's it. So what we're going to do is go and implement this in our CPP file. So we're going to go down here to the CPP, just going to go down to the very bottom, and we'll just add it in there so that we have everything we need set up. Just going to go down here, and it's void a pickup was implemented, was collected implementation. Just grab that. And we don't really need to do anything here in the base class. So we're going to leave this, but we'll add a debug log for messaging. And this is, again, something covered in Epic's tutorial. So we're going to log a debug message. And we do that with a UE_log. We'll put in the log class. Log is the verbosity level, and it's just going to be text. And the way I like to do this is to actually put the class name and function name. And then we can also say, and then we can put %s, and we'll put in the name of this object. There we go. So we'll print out a log message with the function call and the name of the pickup that was picked up. Okay, and that's all we need to do with that. Now you'll notice there is no implementation or no code for the was collected function, because the way it works is the engine calls was collected underscore implementation, and that's what actually gets called. So in the derived classes, so in our child classes like the battery, when we implement this, we're actually only going to handle the was collected function with the implementation tag. So we'll say this is void was collected implementation, and this is an override because we're overriding that virtual function. And so this is to override, override the base class version to handle being picked up. Okay, so this is what we're going to do on this side. Now, again, we're going to do this first pass just like Epic does in theirs. We'll go into this and say, okay, in ours, it's going to be void a battery pickup was collected implementation. And here, we're going to say, first we want to call the super version. Super. So that allow the parent class to handle this first. And I say this first because it's important to establish a convention so that you always know when you're looking at code that the child class happens and then the base class. And if you go around changing that, let's say I have 10 different types of pickups and some of them do their own thing and then call the parent, and some of them do call the parent first, then you have weird flows of logic in your game. So you really do not want to do that. So I recommend that you establish convention. So the convention is always call the super version first, let the parent class handle it, then the child class comes along and does whatever the child class needs to do. And in our case, all we need to do is to destroy the battery. So we picked it up. We'll do other things in the future, but for now we just want to call destroy. Now this is going to be a problem. This is how Epic does it, and it works fine. In the single player version, this is not going to work for us at all on the network. But we're just going to leave it like this for now, and we'll actually move on to when we start handling collection to do this do our second pass and do it the right way. So for now, we'll just leave that right there. And then we'll go on and add the second part, which is we will add the collection sphere so the player pawn can actually pick stuff up. So I'm just going to save that and switch over to the character. So here in the character, we need to create a sphere component, which we're going to add to the character, and that will allow us to pick things up, and that sphere will just sort of travel around with the player, with the character. So we're going to do that just by taking an existing one. This is what Epic Tutorial does. It's sort of a pretty good idea. Just grab one of these, and we're going to copy paste it, and we're going to change this to the collection sphere. And then we need to change some of these aspects to it. So it's going to be, that's correct, that's correct, that's correct. Category is not. The category is going to be battery. And allow private access true is fine. And this is a uSphere component. So uSphere component. And we'll call it the collection sphere. Okay, and then we also need an accessor for this. We need to be able to get that collection sphere. So we'll actually go down and do the same thing. Find it down here where we grab the follow camera and do the same thing. So we will copy, paste that. And we're going to return the collection sphere. So we'll change this to get collection sphere. And it does not return a camera component. It returns a uSphere component. Okay. And this returns the collection sphere subobject. uSphere component, get collection sphere. Okay, looks pretty good. And then we're going to go into the constructor, set this up. So let's flip over to our implementation. And in the implementation, we will put this thing here as soon as we get constructed. We will build the collection sphere down here. I'm just going to throw it right below this. It's the same thing as the follow camera. Same setup essentially. So this is going to be to create the collection sphere. We're just going to go ahead and you know what, I'm just going to type it. Collection sphere equals create default subobject uSphere component, and the text will be collection sphere lowercase o. Okay, and then let's take that collection sphere and attach it to the root component. And we're also going to set its radius to something. Okay, we're going to put a value in here. But we could put a hard-coded value in here and then just leave it. That's what Epic's tutorial does, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. However, just to give ourselves a little bit of practice, we're going to go ahead and make this a variable that we can then go in, that we can change in the editor, and we'll also make it a replicated variable so that it shows up on the client and everybody knows all about it in case there's some use for it down the road. So we'll go ahead and flip back over to our header file, and we'll actually create this thing. We're going to make it down at the bottom here. It's going to be a private variable. We want this to be a float, and it's the collection sphere radius. And then this is going to be a U property. It's going to be replicated, because that way maybe we wanted to visualize it on the client or something, we'd be able to do that. It's visible anywhere. It's blueprint read-only. And it's in the battery category. And we're going to say we're going to add the meta keyword for allow private access. I don't actually think this is necessary, but we'll go ahead and do it. Okay, so that's all of that. And let's add our note. So this is our variable radius can be changed in the editor. Okay, great. And then we will take that collection sphere radius. Let's go back into our constructor, and here we're going to set a base value for the sphere radius. And we'll go ahead and set it to that 200. And then when we just pass that in here to the collection sphere radius. There we go. Okay. And now that value will be replicated, it'll be available on clients and on servers, and we'll be able to see it there. Okay. That is pretty much all we need to do for setting up that sphere radius and the basic handling. So we'll go ahead and compile that. Let's right-click on our game and click compile. And once that's done, then we will move on to actually collecting things. This is sort of our second pass. And in that case, we're going to make some changes to the wasCollected functionality. And we'll talk a little bit more about how that's going to work and the underlying network functionality. And we'll take care of that in the next video after I figure out what I did wrong. Hold on, step back 1 second, take a look. Yes, of course. This is where we have to, now we've added a replicated variable, so we have to go and put in our replication, our network scaffolding code. So this is a good opportunity to knock that out. So let's go ahead, just write under our constructor and add that. If you recall, we did this once before, so this is good experience or good sort of practice. We need to add that get lifetime replicated props function, and that's going to take, we could go and copy this because it's the exact same signature, lifetime property by reference as an out value, lifetime props, and this is const override. Okay, so we could just grab that, but that's okay. So this is our required network setup. Okay, and now we need to implement that. So let me see if IntelliSense will actually do this. Woohoo, it did it. So I just hit Control period with the cursor on that function, and it actually generates the in the CPP file for me. So I can actually edit it right there, or I can just flip over and I'll see here's the function already written, at least the signature, so I can now just focus on the implementation. It's just a little bit of a shortcut. Sometimes it works, sometimes it hasn't in the past, but that's okay. So super, we always call the super version first of get lifetime replicated props, and we pass the out value, and then we're going to announce or declare the replicated values from this class. So do rep lifetime, and this is a NMP game character, and we're passing the collection sphere radius. Perfect. We'll add a couple more later, but for now, this gets everything set up for us, and it'll be easier to add specifically the power values when we replicate those down the road. You'll also notice, of course, that we have the red squigglies because we haven't included our network header. So let's go back up to the top of the file and include net Unreal Network.h. Include that header file. And now we can go ahead and I think we're good to go for compiling. Let's build. Okay, and assuming this works, then like I said, in the next video we'll actually handle the collection piece, which is going to involve some more communication back and forth over the network. So that's where we're going to dig into some more of this nitty-gritty technical details.